I imagine most of you are familiar with the classic fairy tale of the princess kissing a frog and it turning into a charming prince. But based on the video I made earlier today, it seems most of you are unfamiliar with the true story of the out-of-touch Hollywood director that kissed a beautiful video game franchise and turned it into a piece of poop movie that's now playing in theaters called Return to Silent Hill. I made a review on it earlier today, and I feel like I should apologize for even making anyone aware of it. Seems most people were happier in the blissful ignorance, unaware that a new Silent Hill movie was even coming out and that it's bad. But I thought, instead of just focusing on, something negative, a bad movie that I wouldn't recommend to anyone, why not balance out the videos today here with the opposite of something that I have been recommending to literally everybody for like the last week. It's called Orb on the Movements of the Earth. It's a Netflix anime, which I know immediately just had a ton of people roll their eyes and just like really tempted to just stop the video now and leave. But just hear me out for a moment. Orb, I think, is an extraordinary anime that is unlike most shows I think you've probably watched. I'm making a bold assumption here, but I'm pretty confident in that assessment. And I know I did reference Orb in a video not too long ago when I was talking briefly about 100 Meters, which is another anime movie that came out to a lot of glaze, a lot of people gushing grannies over it, which I also thought it was great, and made a mention that it's from the same creator as Orb. And at the time, I hadn't finished this show yet. I only just finished it like a week ago. And since then, I've been real Orb-brained. This shit has been in my noodle for a while, and it sent me down a rabbit hole of research on my own. It's a show that I really think most people would appreciate. Now, it's really hard to talk about this show without getting into spoilers, and I think it's very important to not be spoiled on anything going into this. So I'm going to do my best here to give you the elevator pitch and hopefully put a boner in those shorts here over Orb. So the show is set in a time where there is an accepted view of our life on this planet as well as our place in the cosmos. Geocentrism, where it is believed that Earth is the center of the universe and all of the cosmic bodies overhead, the heavenly bodies, revolve around us, Earth. And in this time period, faith is, of course, of paramount importance. So to be conducting research that goes against accepted doctrine from the church in regards to geocentrism is viewed as blasphemous and will have you labeled a heretic. Heretic. That made it sound like it was some kind of like Warhammer technology or something. Labeled as a heretic, which is a huge crime punishable by death. But in the quest for the truth, to understand more about astronomy, people keep doing more research and start arriving at different conclusions that go against what's been accepted as the truth with geocentrism, which arrives at the notion that perhaps Earth isn't the center of the universe, maybe it's the sun. Heliocentrism. And this show explores how they arrive at this conclusion, the research that goes into it, as well as constantly being at odds with the church, which is life or death. And I know maybe hearing this concept, you get the impression that this is like religion bad type thing. It's not. This is a very complex show that dives into really deep and intricate themes that I think is just a thrilling journey. It's not like an action shonen where you're getting like crazy fights in every episode. There is action. There are like some sword fights that happen, but that is not the bulk of the content. The bulk of it is a philosophical exploration of research, the joy of learning things and knowledge, and the pursuit of finding like your truth or questioning things and the importance of being able to think. It goes into so many different directions, and I think it does it beautifully. I want to talk more like deeply on it, but I don't want to spoil a single thing about this because I think it would be doing it a disservice. This show went in so many directions I could have never expected. It does not pull punches. I think it carries huge emotional weight, and I think it is just an overall very thought-provoking experience. This is actually like a top 20 anime of all time for me now. I really, really enjoyed it. At first, I imagine most people will watch it and think that it'll be pretty simple. We follow a kid named Rafal who has a chance encounter with a heretic who has just been released by the church. They gave him like a second chance, basically abandon his blasphemous research and he gets to live. He cannot do that because this is something I think is very well conveyed in the show. When you have an idea, when you start to question things, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It becomes something that you must pursue. It's part of human nature to like want to find these answers that now start plaguing your mind. So even though he is being tortured, and even though he knows by continuing this research it will lead to him being killed, burned at the stake, he can't help it. And our main character, Rafal, happens to cross his path and unwillingly at first ends up going on a journey with him where a simple idea gets presented. The Earth is what's moving. Geocentrism is wrong. And at first, he dismisses this as just fucking lunacy. This is ridiculous. But the idea gets planted. And once that simple idea makes it into his brain, he then starts to question things. And once he starts questioning things, he starts really diving into this research, which now puts his life on the line as well. And it's the first domino that begins to fall across this, like, I think it was 25 episodes, this 25 episode journey that I think is just beautiful. Absolutely stunning. I also think this show has an incredible main villain, which is Novak, who is, I think, such a good fucking villain throughout this entire show. Super, super good. And there's so many twists and turns throughout this that I would love to talk more on, but I don't want to spoil anything. I really do hope that you'll at least give Orb a chance, because I think this is a show that a lot of people probably wouldn't even look twice at. When it came out, it flew under the radar, apparently. I thought the show was very popular because my friends like Dankin and Scoots were constantly preaching the gospel of how great Orb is, so I was hearing about it a lot, and I assumed a lot of other people were watching it, but based on what I've seen, this is not a very popular anime for some reason, and I really think that's a shame because this is a very unique one. I haven't seen a show quite like Orb before. The closest thing I can compare it to is like Vinland Saga, maybe. That would be something that I would consider kind of closely related to it in regards to like character exploration and like complex emotions being explored. Now, one thing I do know will be the case, maybe some people out there try and give Orb a shot, but they end up dropping it because they just find it to be boring. I think that's very possible. I think a lot of people might view this as a snooze fest, especially in like the realm of mainstream anime. This is very, very, very different. It is a slow burn. Kind of. I don't really consider it a slow burn because the show itself is constantly high stakes, high intensity, like always on edge. The characters you follow, at any moment, the Inquisitors like Novak could find out about their research and torture and kill them. And that there's a lot of torture and killing throughout the show. So, like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a slow burn, but it's not an action-heavy show. I also imagine some people who start the show might have an issue where every character that gets interacted with is like a very deep-thinking philosopher. There is no character in this show that's a fucking idiot. There's no character that is stupid. Every character, when they are talked to, if they have a single second of screen time, they will give you a philosophical speech. And I think some people might find that to be a bit overbearing, because I'm not exaggerating. There's no dumb characters here. Anytime a character has something to say, they have a lot to say, and it's always like pretty deeply philosophical. I actually really liked that. I was very intrigued to hear each character's unique perspectives on things. I liked that, but I think some people might find it to be, like, too much. Which, I guess I could understand. But for my taste, I actually really appreciated that. Also, I've got to mention how good the opening is to the show. It's a very creative opening, by the way. I haven't seen an anime opening do what this show does. I don't want to get into spoilers, but I will tell you, the opening goes through its own kind of evolution as well throughout the 25 episodes, which I thought was very cool. I thought that was a really unique idea that they explored. I'm sure there's other shows that have done it, but none of them come to mind, or maybe I haven't seen them. So when Orb was doing it, I thought it was great. I could go on and on glazing Orb on the movements of the Earth, but I think you get the point. I think this is a very special show. I don't think there's a whole lot of anime out there quite like this, and I really think this show will constantly surprise you. It will go places you don't expect, and I honestly think that it may even inspire some to a certain degree. Like I said, after watching Orb, I myself started doing research because I found it so fascinating. The ancient astronomers, what they were doing in their day and age to start reaching these kind of ideas, and how they would set out using their tools of the era that they were in to try and prove these very complicated, complex ideas, like geocentrism potentially being an inaccurate model. It was so interesting. It is a show that I think can even plant ideas of its own in the viewers. And ideas are a very powerful thing. I don't know. I really, really liked Orb a lot, and I think a lot of people would. Maybe they just haven't heard about it. So this is me just letting you know Orb on the Movements of the Earth fucking slaps. That's really about it. See ya.